Hey there, today I'm going to play through one full round of the Ultron encounter using the AI flowcharts provided by Atomic Mass Games for free on their website. And then I'll give you some of my thoughts on my experiences both with the round I play here as well as some of the other experiences I've had just playing on my own. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. Alright, before anything else, I want to throw out a couple of disclaimers. You're going to hear me call characters by the wrong name, and I will straight up ignore a couple of critical roles that should have been rolled in at one point during the walkthrough. I apologize, I'm still knocking off some of the rust from, actually rolling dice. And this isn't really meant to be a full battle report. I really just want to do a quick walkthrough of how to use the flowcharts and the AI rules so that you can easily set up your own battles versus Ultron and start knocking off some of the rust yourselves, because this is absolutely something you should give a try yourself. A few things worth noting: Ultron does not use power or actions. Rather, he will be following a couple of flowcharts to guide him on his quest for world domination or just destruction. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes. Here's the board that I have set up for my game against Ultron. All of the potted plants and vending machines are going to be size 1. The cars and dumpsters will be size 2. The trees and statue will be size 3. And finally, the building Ultron is standing on will be size 4. And I will be using the recommended roster of characters that the All Will Be Metal rulebook suggests. This means I will have one team with a Red Skull leading Baron Zemo, Crossbones, Dr. Octopus, and Black Widow, and the other Crisis team consisting of Captain America, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, and Spider-Man. I will be playing on the hard difficulty, so I do have access to a couple of team tactic cards for each squad, and Ultron will have 4 dice naturally for his Doomsday Dice rolls. I've already deployed my forces and set up Ultron in the middle of his deployment zone, so let's get started. Alright, with everything set up and ready to go, all the characters are powered up. I'm going to start by going with Crossbones over here on the edge. This mission is really simple. He just needs to get within range 1 of that objective, which he does so wonderfully. And he's going to spend a power, and we are going to flip that over to the hero's side. And then his additional action is just going to move up a little bit further. That way, hopefully, the next turn, he's able to find a citizen and move into capture. Next up, we are going to go with Spider-Man, and he is immediately going to check that statue by interacting with it. It is size 3, so he has 3 dice. And we got a crit, so we got a little bit lucky, so he's going to claim that, and then immediately, he's going to move along, which isn't quite enough to get him within range 1 of the mission objective, but that'll be 1 victory point hopefully next turn. And finally, we're going to go with Mr. Iron Man, and we're going to start by just moving him over toward the console over there, and he will spend a power to interact with it, flip that over to the Avengers side, and then he is also going to move, and I think he just needs to be within range of Spider-Man in case anything bad happens and he can help out. At the beginning of Ultron's activation, nothing really changes. You still roll for the Doomsday devices first. Thankfully at this point Ultron has none of them, so we are going to roll 4 dice because we're playing on the hard difficulty, and we get 2 skulls, a hit, and a wild. Those skulls also act as a blank, and that's going to activate the secondary power reserves. Then we also got a hit for horrifying scraping sound, and finally a wild for a better age. So, for the most part, resolving the Doomsday Device dice is the same process. We will still start from the top of the chart and work our way down, but there are some added benefits for our evil robot overlord. The secondary power reserves works the same, but if he does get to claim a console, it has to be one that is further than range 5 away. But more importantly, whenever Ultron gets his power reserves, he also just gets 1 free victory point. The horrifying scraping sound has no changes in this instance, but a better age does. There aren't any extra benefits per se, but the AI tip card goes through and that shows you how to select the terrain feature to be destroyed. In this case, since there is only one terrain feature that a civilian had been found through, Ultron really only has one choice. And also as a reminder to have the Crisis team place a civilian token within range 1 of the terrain feature before destroyed, because, well, you may see me miss that. Alright, the first thing we need to resolve is the secondary power reserves, and because Ultron cannot claim one that is within range 5, and it just makes more sense to grab one he's not going to be able to get this turn on his own, we're going to go ahead and score that one over there. Then secondly, we resolve the horrifying scraping sound. Thankfully, Ultron's not the one who gets to place this citizen, but Spider-Man does indeed have to drop his off. And so we are going to put it at the end over here, hoping that maybe a fellow hero can pick that up before the turn is over. And then finally, because that is the only terrain piece that a citizen has been found in, the Iron Man statue has to go. Now we get to move on to Ultron's flowchart. The first side is the programming functions. You start in the top left corner and just do as Ultron's AI tells you. In this case, because neither of the first two options are viable, we will be resolving the third option. So after looking at the programming functions, Ultron is going to select a Doomsday console that is not within range 5, and this one over here is just barely outside of his range 5. So we are then going to advance Ultron medium, and placing him on top of this building is slightly unfortunate, but that will get him to right about there. And then he gets a free matter of transference to put him within range 1 of that console, moving him up just a little bit further, and he gets to interact for free, claiming yet another Doomsday console. Then we'll take a look at the targeting programs. Looking at his targeting programs, or assault functions, we will once again move through the flowchart starting in the top left corner. And because there are no targets within range 2, we will be selecting the third option, which will lead to an energy blast going into one of Ultron's 3 possible targets. At the bottom of the AI functions chart, there is a target priority list, which will tell us who Ultron's victim is going to be. So after looking through all of the Crisis programming, we determined that there is a Crisis Team character within range 4 of Ultron, and he's going to make an energy blast targeting one of those characters. None of these 3 that are in range, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Crossbones, are holding a Terrified Citizen token, nor are any of them injured. So we then have to go with the lowest energy defense, and in that case it's not a tie, and Crossbones is only on 2. So we'll start with Ultron rolling 7 energy dice into poor Crossbones here. And we get a whole 3 hits, so not too terrifying for Crossbones. And he rolls a defense of 1. So Crossbones is going to take 2 damage and gain 2 power. Crossbones is going to take advantage of that attack and use his aggressive passive ability to make an advance towards Ultron, making sure to stay within range 1 of that Jeep in case he gets lucky next turn. And with that, that is the end of Ultron's first cosmic turn, so we will add 1 check mark there. It is once again the hero's turn, and the first thing that we're going to do is go with Red Skull and use the Cosmic Cube ability. This is going to cost him an action, but it gets him 3 guaranteed power, and only 1 point of damage from the 1 skull in the corner. With that 3 power, he's then going to teleport Steve Rogers just a little bit closer to that citizen so that they can pull off some shenanigans the following turn with Cap here. But then Red Skull, for his last move, is just going to advance up and get some cover behind the dumpster. Captain America will then go. He will pick up said civilian for a power, and then advanced medium, and getting the first point for the good guys this game, tying it all up. With his second action, he's going to go ahead and move over. Well, let's actually put him close to Crossbones, since we know Crossbones has low energy defense, and Captain America might be able to bodyguard starting next turn. The final activation from the Crisis team is going to be Doc Ock, and he is just going to move forward and flip that console over to the good guy's side, and then he is going to make another advance and start moving towards the other console for possibly next turn's activation. Moving back over to the Cosmic Threats turn, Ultron will first start by rolling those sweet, sweet Doomsday Dice. and got, thankfully, not too many, well, plenty of different results actually. So first off, he once again has the secondary power reserves. He is already controlling a token, so he's not going to get one for free this time. However, he still does get that one extra instant victory point, and the power doesn't really matter to him. Then we will resolve yet another horrifying scraping sounds, and unfortunately nobody is holding a token, so we'll have to move to a additional devastating barrage, which I will resolve here in just a second. Then we got another wild for a better age, and then we'll have an additional devastating barrage. Looking at these Doomsday Dice, there are a couple things to point out. Mostly that the two devastating barrages will follow the same priority targeting that Ultron would follow when using his energy blast attack. As well, because there has not been a new evacuated terrain feature, Ultron will turn to the AI tip programming card and follow it to figure out which terrain feature he will be destroying. Alright, so we know from the priority programming that Crossbones, Spider-Man, and Iron Man will all be taking 2 damage, one from the initial horrifying scraping sounds that turned into a devastating barrage, and then that last devastating barrage. And then the A Better Age, because I was nice to Ultron apparently, and didn't put any terrain features within range 2 of the board center, we then pick one that is within range 2 of Ultron on the table. And it seems kind of silly to just blow up that bush, so instead we will remove the Jeep as a source of Crossbones trying to score an additional point next turn. We then follow his programming functions, and because there are no characters holding a Terrified Citizen or just a Terrified Citizen token within range 5 of Ultron, we get to move to a Doomsday console, or at least towards a Doomsday console that is not within range 5, including a free matter transference move in there. That still unfortunately does not put him within range 1. Moving on to the assault functions, there is only one Crisis Team character within range 2 of Ultron, so Ultron is going to make a Metallic Talons attack targeting Doc Ock here, and he gets a free use of the Folly of Man superpower, meaning that all of the blanks will also count as hits here. So with that said, that is a straight up 6 hits onto poor Ultron, including a pierce and a bleed from that wild effect. He does have 4 defense dice though, so we'll see if he can block any of it. And he does block 1, so that's still 5, and then the pierce will turn that to a blank, making Doc Ock dazed, straight up with 6 incoming damage. So with that, Doc Ock is dazed. He will gain 5 power and 5 damage. Thankfully, Ultron doesn't get a point yet. Oh, if Doc Ock goes down again, he certainly will. Thankfully, though, that is his second activation. Alright, the hero's last turn is going to be a pretty simple one. Not have a lot to do with Ultron directly. We're going to double move with Captain Marvel, hoping that she can get over there for next turn and flip that Doomsday device off. And then we will go with Baron Zemo over here, and he is just going to double book it long, getting him within range 1 of this objective, and flipping that over to the Avengers side. And then finally we'll go with Black Widow, and she's going to roll 3 dice after interacting with the Captain America statue, and unfortunately doesn't find what she wants. So she still does have 2 actions, and with those, we're just going to move her toward the center of the board, where she's going to be able to move wherever she needs to be for the following turn. And for Ultron's last activation, we will now roll those Doomsday Dice again. He's only getting that +1 because he still controls the console over here. Captain Marvel wasn't able to quite get to it, and he wasn't quite able to get over here to contest the one next to Zemo. So with that said, 5 evil dice, and once again, a variety of results, which just spells nasty for the heroes. So first up, we have the blank and failure as the secondary power reserves. Ultron still controls the 1, but he's going to get that free victory point immediately, which is always quite nice. From there, we move on to the block, which is the 1 path to peace, and there are no Terrified Citizens to remove, so nothing's going to happen there. We then immediately move on to the wild, and we still have no terrain features within range 2, but Ultron does have some within range 2 here, so he's just going to blow up that dumpster. And then finally, we have the crit again, and because Crossbones is within range and Black Widow is within range, I then have to make a decision between Iron Man and Spider-Man, and I think I'm just going to keep on wearing down Iron Man, which kind of bypasses his Invincible Iron Man ability. So all of them are going to take 1 damage, getting some of them dangerously close to getting dazed, and then we'll move on to his programming functions. Once again, there are no terrified citizens on the board or characters holding them, especially none that are within range 5 of Ultron. We will once again select the only console that he does not control and not within range 5, that is in the top right corner of the board, and he will make a advance followed by a matter transference, trying to get him within range 1, and once again falling just short. He does have some options for range 2 attack. Unfortunately, Spider-Man is just out, Black Widow is just out, so his only target is going to be Captain America, and he will then have to resolve his Metallic Talons attack onto him. And once again, it does get that free upgrade of the Folly of Man, so we have 6 dice. And woof, what a hit again. And we will get the Pierce and a Bleed effect if Captain America gets to live through this, and that blank also gets to count. So this is 6 hits going on to Cap. Cap does have his defense of 4, and he will go ahead and spend a power to get an extra 2 against this 6 dice hits. And Captain America, unfortunately, is only able to block 1. It'll get pierced away, and that is going to be a dazed Captain America as well here at the end of this round. So at the end of the round, Ultron has already dazed 2 characters. He is only holding that 1 objective in the back, so he's going to get 1 additional victory point for that. And then the Avengers, or just the Crisis team, hold 3 different points because Ultron is not quite able to get to any of them, scoring 3 points for themselves, ending it at a tie 4-4. However, Iron Man has already taken 3 damage, Spider-Man's already taken 2, Widow's taken 1, and Crossbones has already taken 5 as well. So Ultron on the AI is actually quite strong, and that's without him getting these consoles left and right. And that concludes one full round of the Ultron AI raid. Before I get into a review of it, I did want to mention a couple of things that I didn't get to show off. The first being Ultron getting to use his Enough superpower. This only triggers when Ultron gets attacked and suffers 3 or more damage as a result. Over round 1, the Crisis team members were more focused on getting into position to play the objectives and weren't fully gunning for Ultron yet. So we didn't get to see it pop up, but when it does, there are some additional instructions for how to throw the attacking model. As well, since we didn't do any attacking onto Ultron, we never got to see the use of We Are Ultron, which is his reviving ability, allowing Ultron to then teleport onto one of his controlled Doomsday consoles or somewhere else, depending on, well, other things. That should just about cover all of the rules interactions, so let's talk about my experiences against the machine. All in all, I am a really big fan. The amount of free content that Atomic Mass Games has been putting out for the community is amazing, and I'm super excited to see what else they have up their sleeves for us in the future. And obviously, this game mode comes at a time when we can't get our normal games in at the local game store or at game nights with friends. Unless maybe you twist your significant other's arm a bit and they give in to playing a game every now and again. So all of these things are just a big plus for me in general. I also want to point out how well balanced I think they made the AI Ultron. By not limiting his power or actions, Atomic Mass has ensured that he is a constant threat on the board, even without my poor positioning of multiple characters to have Ultron take extreme advantage of multiple devastating barrages in the middle of the board. Ultron without that help still daze 2 characters with ease while moving around the board. As well, with how the assault and programming functions are laid out in their flowcharts, it's very easy to follow, so even somebody just picking up the core set can still get a game in without too many hiccups. The way that the assault functions will loop back into an additional programming function to ensure that just pushing Ultron to the edge of the board over and over is not too strong of a strategy, but maybe a push or a throw to make his AI select something to your advantage is very thematic and fun. Well, I tried taking just the core set characters in my walkthrough. Choose your favorites and take a go at it. If you haven't gone up against Ultron before, I would probably recommend the normal difficulty before ramping it up to hard though. I do have one critique, or at least something I would recommend changing that you may want to implement into your own games if you're looking to make Ultron a bit more dangerous or at least a bit more consistent in scoring points. Under his programming functions, Ultron prioritizes any Doomsday console that is not within range 5 of him that he does not control over the ones that are much closer. So, twice in my one-round experience, Ultron could have moved to the 4th option in the flowchart instead to have been able to flip a Doomsday console onto his own side instead of letting the Crisis team have continued control. Maybe this is intentional to make Ultron less domineering on victory points since he is getting them back from his backup power reserves. But I had to double check to make sure I was playing this correctly and not misreading it because it didn't seem to make a lot of sense at first. So if you have already tried a game or two against the AI, maybe swap the 3rd and 4th functions on Ultron's programming side and let me know what you find. I will say that again, despite my one nitpicking, this is definitely worth a playthrough or two, and is going to be another great tool to showcase and demo the game for new players, especially because the core box has everything you need to play out this encounter. So, give it a try and let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you have any questions about resolving Ultron's functions, feel free to give me a shout here or on the Gamers Guild Facebook page, or go straight to the source and shoot Atomic Mass Games a message, and I am sure they will help you out. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.